for me there was not really that one moment when I knew it. It was pretty much present when I was 15 or so, when I started to grow up. However, there was one moment in a very bad film, a Dr. Fu Manchu film, a real B picture, and I saw it with my friends. And in one of the gun battles of the bad guys of Dr. Fu Manchu, one of the men is shot from a rock and somersaults down and falls down. And 10 minutes later, there's another gun battle, and all of a sudden I see exactly the same shot again. So what they did is this 2 or 3 seconds of shot was recycled. And I recognized it because this bad guy was doing a strange kick in the air. And I said to my friends after the film, did you notice that they used the same moment twice? So they cheated, and none of my friends had seen it. And from that moment, I started to try to see how do you put a film together, how do you edit, how do you narrate, and that was probably the moment where I started to look at films with different eyes, where I started to understand how storytelling was done in cinema.
Well, I was about 3 years old, I remember, my first experience. And as my father, my stepfather actually, was a filmmaker. He made small little films in West Germany at that time. And he couldn't earn enough money. And so he was also a projectionist. And he took me with him to the theater and set me aside the projection machine. And there I was sitting, and it was a kind of experience like this film Cinema Paradiso, that I looked through this little hole and there was something happening on the screen. And this was very, very emotional for me as a child. And actually with 3 years you do not really know what you do or what you see. And more and more I got involved.
I used to go to cinema when I was a little girl, and maybe the moment I understood that cinema is important, it was when I worked as a teacher in Tunisia for 2 years, and I used to use pictures and video to explain to the students things, to transmit informations, emotions, and I understood at that moment the power of the images and the power of cinema in transmission. And after those 2 years, I went to France, to Paris, and I started the cinema school, and I became a filmmaker.
I think that the first movie that I saw that make me have the feelings to do cinema, or maybe trying to find what is behind the scenes, you know, behind the camera, is the E.T. movie from Steven Spielberg. And when I saw that film, I think that I saw it when I was very young several times. That film make me wanting to know how it's possible that you see a film and you don't feel frames, you just dive into the universe of the film. So that film makes me want to do films.
I loved going to the movies all my childhood, but it never occurred to me that I could actually make movies in my country and being a woman. And it was later in life I studied sociology at the university, and I was working as a sociologist. I was 20-something, and I began working with documentary filmmakers, a collective of women filmmakers. And I think when I saw them with their cameras, portraying people and what was going on, I fell in love with the camera. It was love at first sight. I love the camera work, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, to be behind the camera and use it to express myself. My family is a family of artists. We have filmmakers in the family. My mother's an actress, my uncle is a filmmaker. My family comes from Hungary, but I grew up in Switzerland. So I saw a lot of suffering, like not to get where you want to get, like you cannot do the art, because sometimes it's difficult if you're not successful. So I decided I never want to be in art. That was my decision when I was 20 years old. But somehow I ended up in film school, and I wanted to be a producer. So I wanted to be on the other side, not the art house. But and I did short films and feature films, but I always had stories in my mind. And then I couldn't help myself, and I did a short film, and it was quite successful. And somebody asked me if I have an idea for a long feature film, and I just sat down and started writing. And I think it's the reason why I'm actually doing film, because there are a lot of stories I want to tell.
The moment that made me decide to become a cinematographer, I think I was 12 years old or 13 years old, and first time I go see a movie by myself, and it was The Last Emperor, Bertolucci's movie. Storaro shot it, and it just made me like such an impression. The colors, the compositions, everything about the movie, the acting, everything was just extraordinary, and it just like made me decide to become a cinematographer.
After I wrote and directed my 6th or 7th play, I was just reading a biography of Mr. Phalke, Dada Saheb Phalke. And while reading, I decided that this may be a film. This may turn out to be a film. Because while I was reading the biography, I started seeing some visuals. But this time I recognized that they are not theatrical visuals like I used to see, and that's why I wrote and directed plays first. This time it was something different, and it was not on stage. That much I understood, but I was not getting exactly what it was. So I completed the reading, I went on with research, and then I decided the visuals which came in front of my eyes after I read the biography were related to cinema medium maybe. And then I wrote it, and then it became very clear that this particular subject should be turned into a film. And then I decided to make my first feature film.
Once while I was very young, still in school, they were showing some Bengali film just next to my house. And they'd put up a big white curtain, and there was a projector kept there. And Durga Puja was there. Durga Puja, just in front of the Durga Puja pandal, the projection was happening. And it was very boring. All I remember was the film was not interesting at all. I mean, it's some boring film. None of us took interest. All our friends, none of us took any interest in that film. So what we did was we were basically playing around. We were going and playing around with the projector, putting your hand in front of the projector. If you put your hand in front of the projection rays, and people are shouting, screaming, get them out of this place. And then suddenly we discovered, there's a screen which was hanging like this, and it was at a height. And we were watching it from this side, the front. And suddenly while playing, since we got so bored with the film, none of us liked it. It was some religious film maybe at that point of time. We crossed the screen and went to the other side. And once you see a film from behind, to me it was extremely magical, extremely unreal, magical. And I was kind of mesmerized. I didn't know what was happening. This same film, when I'm seeing from the front, it's so boring, I don't even want to watch it. But you go on the other side of the screen, it's like magical. Probably that is one of the first stimulus, I should say.
The moment that I first knew that film was the medium that I was going to express my ideas was, I believe I was in a classroom. I was going to school at the Studio Museum of Harlem, and they said there are two different realities, the reality of real life and the reality in the frame. And that's when I decided that I wanted to speak through the reality of the frame, and that's when I became a filmmaker.
The reason I have started doing cinema goes to the film theater, which was just next door to my house, and I remember my parents buying tickets for me, not coming with me, but letting me sit in the theater alone and let me watch n number of Hollywood films, good Hollywood films, because Hollywood was good at that time. So maybe that's a childhood memory, and I was living with cinema that time, so I must have decided to do cinema during that phase. I decided to do it at very early age. I started working when I was 16 as an assistant. So I don't recall a particular moment when I wanted to do it. Not really. I always wanted to do cinema.
I think the particular moment that inspired me to become a filmmaker or to be interested in films was when I saw Patthar Panchali for the first time. I was 18 years old and I was in college in America, and I was just completely transported by that film, and it was a real revelation to me that such a film or such films could exist, because before that in Bombay I only saw Hollywood films and Hindi films, and it was my first experience of a different kind of film.